Help me reach 1,000 subscribes. Support the video with a like and leave your thoughts in the comments. I read every comment. Thanks. I never thought a laugh could change how I saw my entire marriage. It wasn't cruel, not loud, just casual. The kind of laugh you give when you've already made up your mind about someone. Elizabeth laughed and said, "He never surprises me." She wasn't even talking to me. She was talking to her sister on the phone, pacing the kitchen, wine glass in hand, back turned. But I heard it. I stood there holding a small paper bag from the bakery down the street. I'd left work early to get her favorite lemon tarts, the one she used to say reminded her of our first apartment in Brighton. I didn't interrupt her call. I didn't clear my throat. I just listened as she added, "James is predictable. Sweet, but predictable." Then she laughed again, softer this time, like the subject was settled. For a long moment, I considered walking back out, driving until the gas ran low. Instead, I placed the bag on the counter and went to the bedroom. That was my reflex. Retreat quietly. Don't make it a thing. That's how I'd learned to survive the last few years. I'm not a dramatic man. I don't slam doors or shout to be heard. I build things. I plan. I fix what's broken. When Elizabeth and I first met, she said she loved that about me. Said I made her feel safe. Over time, safe became boring, and boring became invisible. I felt it happening, but I couldn't name it. We've been married 11 years. No scandals. No screaming matches. Just a slow drift into parallel lives. She worked in marketing. Always chasing the next pitch, the next dinner, the next room full of people who laughed at her jokes. I worked project management, early mornings, late evenings, steady money. I thought consistency was love. I thought showing up was enough. That night, while she finished her call, I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my hands. I thought about all the times I'd tried to do something thoughtful only to be met with polite appreciation, like tipping a waiter. Necessary, but forgettable. If any part of this feels familiar to you, take a second to like this story so it reaches others who might be standing in the same quiet place right now. At dinner, Elizabeth mentioned a charity gala coming up. Black tie, important people. She said it casually, like an afterthought, then added, "I told them you probably wouldn't want to go. It's not really your scene." I nodded, because that's what I always did. She wasn't wrong. Later, as we cleaned up, I asked, "Do you ever feel like we stopped surprising each other?" I tried to keep my tone light. Curious, not accusing. She looked at me, really looked, like she was assessing how much energy the conversation would cost. "That's just what happens," she said. "Real life isn't a movie." I went to bed early. Sleep didn't come. Her laugh replayed in my head, looping, dull and sharp at the same time. Predictable. The word stuck to me like a label I couldn't peel off. If you've ever been reduced to a single word by someone who was supposed to know you, drop a comment and share what that word was. The next day at work, I barely focused. An idea had taken root, not wild or reckless, but deliberate. The kind of idea that forms when you finally accept that explaining yourself hasn't worked. That evening, I told Elizabeth the first had a surprise plan for Friday. She smiled politely. "Okay," she said, "just don't make it a big thing." That was the moment I decided it would be exactly that. Not loud, not flashy, just undeniable. Because predictability isn't about routine. It's about being seen as incapable of change. And I was done wearing that assumption like a second skin. As the week unfolded, I prepared quietly, carefully, without asking permission. If you're still reading, type the word "see" in the comments if you believe people only change when invisible. Friday was coming, and Elizabeth had no idea what was waiting beyond her laughter. That night waited. Friday evening arrived, crisp and clear. Elizabeth got home around 7, still chatting on the phone, hair pulled up in a careless bun, heels dangling from her fingers. I greeted her at the door with a calm, almost casual smile. She raised an eyebrow. "You said there was a surprise," she said, voice cool. "Is it?" She trailed off, uncertain, because I hadn't given anything away. I let that uncertainty sit between us. Silence is a powerful canvas. I led her to the dining room. Candles flickered. soft light spilling across the table. I'd cooked her favorite meal, grilled salmon with lemon butter, roasted vegetables, and her beloved lemon tart for dessert. Not extravagant, not over the top. Simple, deliberate. She looked around, confusion etching her features. She laughed softly, almost nervously. "You did all this?" she asked. "I didn't think you." Her words faltered. I gestured for her to sit. I wanted to do something different tonight. Something she won't expect. My tone was steady, no pride, just intent. "You never said what it was, James," she pressed. I let my gaze linger on her for a moment longer than necessary. That quiet wait can speak louder than words. If you feel the tension building, give this video a like. Let's see how many people feel this kind of anticipation too. Dinner progressed. Conversation flowed, but it was my flow. I recounted stories from our early days, tiny incidents she had long forgotten. She chuckled occasionally, the kind of laugh I hadn't heard in years. Soft, spontaneous, not the rehearsed, dismissive laugh of the previous weeks. I watched her carefully, noting every detail. The way her hand hovered near mine but didn't touch, the slight hesitation before she spoke. Subtle, fragile, alive. After dessert, I leaned in slightly. "Do you remember the first time I surprised you?" I asked. She blinked, startled. "That little scavenger hunt in Brighton?" she said, faint amusement breaking through. I nodded. "Exactly. I think we've stopped noticing what makes us alive." Her eyes widened, just a fraction, sensing the calm seriousness beneath my tone. Pause here and comment below. What's the most memorable surprise you've ever received or given? Let's get a conversation going. I handed her a small envelope. She looked puzzled, fingers brushing against mine as she took it. Inside was a key, silver, simple, but significant. She raised her eyes to me. "A key? To what?" I didn't answer immediately. I simply said, "To a night where we step out of predictability, where you might finally see me differently." We left the house quietly, the night air sharp and fragrant. I drove without speaking, letting the silence build. When we arrived, Elizabeth recognized the building immediately, a small rooftop venue overlooking the city lights. Private, intimate, only a handful of candles arranged along the terrace. She froze at the entrance, realization dawning. "You brought me here?" Her voice was a mixture of incredulity and admiration. I guided her to the terrace. At that moment, a small string quartet began to play. The music wasn't overwhelming. It filled the space just enough to break the quiet tension. Elizabeth turned to me, a mixture of shock and wonder in her eyes. I've never, James, this is..." Her sentence trailed. I smiled, silently letting the scene speak for me. Moments passed in quiet observation, then I spoke. "Elizabeth, for too long, we've been predictable. I've been predictable. Safe. Seen but not felt. Tonight, I want to change that. Not for anyone else. Not for show. For us." Her breath hitched slightly. "James, She couldn't finish. That was enough. The surprise was never about grandeur. It was about reclamation, about reminding her and myself that we were capable of wonder even after years of routine. As the night progressed, subtle changes appeared. Her laughter returned, spontaneous and unguarded. She touched my arm without hesitation. She looked into my eyes and really saw me again. For the first time in months, the distance between us felt conquerable, if only for a night. If you're enjoying how tension and emotion unfold, share this story with someone who needs to feel a little unpredictability in their life. When we returned home, the quiet was different. Not heavy, not tense. Alive. Elizabeth hugged me tightly, whispering, "I forgot how surprising you can be." I let her words sink in. Finally, a sigh of relief. Predictable James had disappeared for one night. The man who could still shift, still astonish, had returned. Leave a comment with a single word that describes surprise that changed your perspective. Let's see what resonates most with our audience. Before bed, I looked at Elizabeth and said, "Remember, it's not about grand gestures. It's about seeing each other. Every day can surprise, if we allow it." She nodded, her hand brushing mine. Calm, deliberate, alive. And as we settled into sleep, a quiet thrill ran through me. I hadn't shouted, I hadn't forced, I hadn't bargained for attention. I'd simply created a moment that couldn't be ignored. Finally, if you follow this journey, here's a question. Which small act do you think can break years of predictability? Like this video, comment your thoughts and subscribe to see more stories that remind us life and love can always surprise.